All right, welcome back to the podcast, episode 162. Today, we're diving into something big, literally. We're talking about why we need larger GPUs. Mark, you've been knee-deep in this research, haven't you?
Oh man, Jenny, this is the cool part. It's not just about, having a beefier graphics card for gaming anymore, though that's part of it. This is driven by something much, much bigger. AI.
AI. Okay, I get that AI is computationally intensive, but why does that translate directly to larger GPUs? Can't they just make existing ones more efficient?
That's the thing about these massive AI models, especially the ones we're seeing now with trillions of parameters. They need so much memory and so much raw processing power concentrated in one place. Trying to stitch together 1,000 smaller GPUs just creates bottlenecks everywhere. Think about it this way. You know when you're trying to download a huge file? If your internet connection is slow, it doesn't matter how fast your computer is, it's still going to take ages. That's kind of what happens with smaller GPUs and these massive models. There's a saying around this, that modern AI training requires something like 1 exaflop per second compute capacity, times per GPU cluster, not just in aggregate.
An exaflop. That sounds significant. So it's about more than just speed, it's about being able to hold and process this enormous amount of data simultaneously?
Exactly. The memory is a huge piece of it. These models just don't fit in smaller memory footprints. And that's where things like NVIDIA's Blackwell architecture come in. I was just reading about this, and their new GB200 NVL72 system, it's designed to handle models with 10 trillion parameters. It does this by essentially pooling the memory of 72 GPUs together, acting like one massive memory pool.
72 GPUs acting like one? That's fascinating. How do they even connect all of those so they don't create bottlenecks?
That's where the NVLink switch chips come in. They provide these incredibly high-speed connections, boosting memory bandwidth by 130 terabytes per second. It helps eliminate those annoying PCIe bottlenecks you'd typically get trying to connect so many GPUs.
Okay, so it's about the memory and the connectivity. What about the actual processing power within the GPU itself? What's new there?
Oh wait, it gets even better. Blackwell has things like 5th-gen tensor cores. These are specifically designed for AI calculations. They're seeing performance gains of up to 400% over previous generations in certain AI tasks. And they've got 4th-gen RT cores too, which is big for things like real-time ray tracing and simulations, which are becoming more integrated with AI.
Tensor cores for AI, RT cores for visuals, and faster memory. I can see how this all adds up. So how does this impact real-world applications, beyond just training bigger AI models?
Great question. Think about autonomous vehicles. They need to process vast amounts of sensor data in real time to make split-second decisions. More powerful GPUs mean faster, more accurate processing, which means safer vehicles. Or medical imaging. Processing those complex scans faster can lead to quicker diagnoses. Recommendation systems too. You can now run entire complex systems on smaller footprints instead of huge multi-cluster server farms.
Right. I can see how the speed and larger memory would be crucial there. It's not just about running an algorithm, it's about doing it quickly and with massive datasets. So where do we go from here? If we need larger GPUs now, what does the future hold?
Good point. The projections I've seen suggest that by late 2026, we'll need GPUs with 128 gigabytes of HBM memory or more, especially for next-gen multimodal foundation models that combine text, images, and other data types. And we'll need even more CUDA cores for demanding tasks like real-time physics simulations. The need for more power and memory isn't slowing down.
It sounds like it's this constant cycle of AI models getting bigger, which requires bigger GPUs, which then enables even more complex AI models. Are there any downsides to this push for ever larger, more powerful GPUs?
That's something we definitely need to consider. Increased power brings increased energy consumption. Data centers running these massive GPU clusters have a significant energy footprint. While companies are trying to improve energy efficiency, Jensen Huang from NVIDIA mentioned their new transformer engine is way more energy efficient than traditional CPUs. It's an ongoing challenge, and there are ethical considerations too, as AI becomes more powerful and integrated into our lives. We'll need to keep an eye on those aspects as this technology advances.
That's a really important point. It's not just about the tech specs, but the broader impact. So summarizing, the need for larger GPUs is driven by the sheer scale and complexity of modern AI, and new architectures like Blackwell are attempting to meet that demand with advancements in processing power, memory, and connectivity. But we also need to be mindful of the energy and ethical implications as this trend continues.
Exactly. It's this fascinating intersection of pushing the boundaries of computation while also navigating the real-world consequences. It's going to be interesting to see how this evolves over the next few years.
Definitely. And speaking of those real-world consequences, I was reading some research that brings up some valid criticisms of this focus solely on increasing GPU size. Like, the sheer energy consumption is a big one, right? Data centers are using a ton of power.
Yeah, for sure. That's the flip side of this coin. While NVIDIA is saying their new stuff is much more energy efficient than CPUs, it's still a massive times system. And when you scale that up across tons of data centers, it adds up. There's that stat that average data centers use as much electricity as a town of 30,000 people. That's something we can't ignore.
Right. And beyond the environmental angle, there's the cost. These high-end GPUs are incredibly expensive. Doesn't that create a bit of a divide? Like, who gets access to train these massive AI models?
That's true. It can feel like access to some of the most advanced AI capabilities is becoming more and more exclusive to big corporations or well-funded research institutions. A single high-end GPU can cost thousands of dollars, which is just out of reach for many individual developers or smaller startups. It raises questions about democratizing AI and making these tools more accessible.
That's a fair point. Are there alternative approaches to tackling these complex AI problems besides just throwing more hardware at them? Like more efficient software or different kinds of chips?
Good question. That's another area where research is happening. There are folks looking at improving the efficiency of the algorithms themselves, or exploring different computational models, things like distributed computing, where you spread the workload across different resources more effectively, or even looking further out at stuff like quantum computing, or neuromorphic chips that mimic the human brain. It's not just about bigger GPUs. There are other paths too.
So it's not just a single solution. Improving the software side and exploring alternative hardware are just as important as making bigger GPUs, maybe even more so in the long run?
Precisely. It's about a multi-pronged approach. The need for larger GPUs is certainly a driving force times for the scale of these models. But we also need to be smart about how we use them and explore other ways to get the computational power we need.
That makes sense. And then there are the ethical considerations you mentioned. As AI gets more powerful and integrated into everything, what are the big ethical questions we need to be asking?
Oh, there are several. Privacy is a huge one. These models are trained on vast amounts of data. And as they get more sophisticated, how do we ensure that data is handled responsibly? There's also the potential for misuse. Think about deepfakes or using AI for surveillance. Authenticity of AI-generated content is another. As AI gets better at creating realistic text, images, and even video, how do we discern what's real and what's not? These are some heavy questions, but they're relevant to this discussion of increasing AI power.
They definitely are. It's clear that the advancement of this technology isn't happening in a vacuum. There are significant societal and ethical implications tied to it.
Agreed. It's not just about the tech, but the impact on people and society. It's a conversation we need to keep having as things move so quickly.
Definitely. Mark, this was a fascinating dive into the world of large GPUs and the drivers behind it. It's complex stuff, but you do a great job breaking it down.
Thanks, Jenny. It's just so interesting to see how fast this field is evolving and the challenges that come with it.
Right. Well, before we wrap up, I thought it might be fun to do a quick listener poll. I'm curious what our audience thinks about the trade-offs we discussed today.
Oh, good idea. What are you thinking?
How about, do you think the benefits of larger GPUs for AI outweigh the environmental costs? It's a bit of a tough question, but I think it gets at that balance we were talking about.
That's a good one. Forces you to think about the bigger picture beyond just the performance numbers.
Exactly. So listeners, be sure to head over to our social media or website to cast your vote on that poll. We'd love to see what you think. And while you're there, Feel free to share your thoughts on how AI should be regulated or how we can prepare for some of these ethical implications of more powerful AI systems. We might even feature some of your comments in a future episode.
Yeah, definitely. Your insights make this podcast even better. It's not just us talking into microphones.
Totally agree. It's a conversation with our community. So, let's wrap it up there for episode 162. Mark, thanks again for sharing your expertise.
Thanks, Jenny. Always a pleasure.
And thank you to all of our listeners for tuning in. We appreciate you greatly. We'll catch you next time.
See ya.